Welcome to this episode of our property investing channel. This is your host, Enes Tat, and today we're going to be talking about credit report problems and solutions. And our guest, Enes Tat from TAT Solutions, will help us to fully explore this topic. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Enes to our show. Enes, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Amir. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So as a start, tell us about yourself and your journey.
My name is Enes. I'm the director of TAT Solutions. It's a business that's been operating since 2018. Now, my journey into it it's a little bit funny because I was exposed to it when I was about 18, 19 years old for about a year. I joined a credit repair company, and I learned a little bit there about how to dispute listings on credit files that are wrong. And then I left there to go and pursue my studies at university. After that, we had some family financial issues, and credit reports came up, and I said, let me have a look, see if I can do anything. So I was able to raise some disputes on family members' credit reports, and ultimately got those listings removed off the credit reports, which really helped the situation. Going through that experience, I think gave me a bit of passion to pursue a career in credit repair and to help people in similar situations. And I mean, the driving factor is that people who are able to dispute listings and get them removed is because either the lender or the creditor didn't list the default, let's say, correctly. And when those things are on there incorrectly and unfairly, it can be a real problem for anyone trying to move forward financially.
Sure. So you mentioned credit report, investing, and you also talk about home buying and everything. So when people apply for property loans, they might find out that they cannot get a loan because of their credit report. So before going forward, can you please tell us what exactly a credit report is?
So a credit report is basically a document that's created by three major credit reporting bodies in Australia. So you have Equifax, Illion, and Experian. Now, these credit reporting bodies get all the information from creditors, such as creditors can be major banks, ANZ, Commonwealth, NAB. It can also be other creditors. It can be your payday loans. It can be for anyone that provides you credit. Sure. And a credit contract has to put that information on a credit report. Your credit report will have your personal information, such as your name, date of birth, your employment, your repayment history on credit contracts, any inquiries you've made in the past 5 years. It'll also have, as I mentioned earlier, any listings, any adverse listings like defaults, court judgments, court summons, anything like that. It also shows if you're a director of a company, that'll be listed on there. And it calculates a credit score for you. So each credit reporting body has an algorithm to calculate someone's credit score. It varies a little bit from company to company, but it's mostly the same. But yeah, that's what a credit report is. It basically gives lenders a look into your financial history, your repayment history, how credible you are to be able to apply for finance or credit, and they can make a judgment whether to approve you or not.
Fantastic. So it's basically your financial history in a document, and it's just like a document that lists, for instance, when we apply for a car insurance, they look at all the accidents that we had, all the fines and everything. And according to that history, they give us a rate. And,
Exactly.
The more accident we have to pay a higher premium. So that is exactly the same mechanism that banks use when people want to get a loan for anything. Okay, so
Exactly.
what factors can basically negatively impact our credit score?
So there's quite a lot. We'll start with things that aren't even financials. If you have unstable living arrangements, so if you're constantly changing addresses, this can reduce your credit score. I've also seen on some credit reports that the suburb you are living in, if it's the lower socioeconomic areas, that can also have an impact on your score. Now, the chances that that would be written on your report as one of the factors of a lower score is very low, and it's only for those who don't have a credit history. And for example, Equifax, if on the credit report they give you a credit score, legally they have to explain your credit score to you and what it's made up of, right? So if you don't have repayment history, you have no debt, they look at your socioeconomic status of where you live. They look at your employment history. How stable is it? Or are you changing jobs every year? And these are the things to take into consideration. They look at your age of your credit file as well. But yeah, as far as non-financial, that's what that is. That's how they judge it. But as far as financial, things that can negatively affect it is credit inquiries. So if you're applying to multiple different places for credit, especially small amounts of credit, you know, $5,000-$10,000, this can affect you quite badly, especially if you're applying back to back to back. Because when a credit report sees that, they see it as, okay, this person is desperate for money and they're just trying to get money anywhere they can in order to achieve what they're trying to. Now, the other thing that can affect it is the type of places you apply to. You know, your everyday payday lenders and your, I guess you'd call it subprime lenders. Those things will affect your score as well. Buy now, pay later services, your Zip Pay, your Afterpay, Latitude, Open. There's so many of them. Now they've been listed on your credit report, not just as a loan inquiry or a personal loan. It specifically states buy now, pay later service. And that's got a negative impact on your credit score too. The other big thing is repayment history. Repayment history is very important because if you are more than 14 days late to make payment on a bill, it will be listed on your report for 2 years, so 24 months. And you can just imagine, you know, if you've fallen behind in the last 3 months on a credit card bill and you're just in the process of applying for a home loan, the bank's going to say, if you've fallen behind on the credit card, how can I assess that you'll be able to afford this home loan?
Absolutely.
So repayment history is a major factor. And the other thing is, if you let that repayment history lapse for over 60 days, if the debt becomes over 60 days due, it can go into default. You can also have court judgments. Court judgments are when a debt is taken through the court system and the creditor obtains a court judgment against yourself or whoever it may be, and you legally owe that debt, and that'll that'll be listed on your credit report for 5 years. Same as a default listing. A default listing it's for a minimum of $150. So a very small amount can really ruin your credit report and your financial future for 5 years. Those are the biggest things that affect you. You've got your bankruptcies, which are on your credit report.
Sure.
If you've had your company being in administration, that'll be listed on your report as well as a director. But yeah, those are the major factors.
You mentioned about number of inquiries for a small amount of loans. We've seen it times and times again that when people, especially people who don't work with a mortgage broker, just to basically get the best rates, they go to many banks themselves.
Yes.
And how does this affect the credit score?
So unfortunately in Australia, shopping around for better rates really does hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the benefit of working with a broker would be they can provide you with the best option. They've already submitted your application without making an inquiry
Absolutely.
to multiple lenders, and those lenders will come back with certain rates. And then the broker will present to you the best, maybe the three best options, and then you get to pick from there. However, if you were to do it by yourself and you went to Commonwealth, you went to ANZ or whoever it may be, to get different rates, each time is a separate credit application. And each time it'll be listed on your report and it'll reduce your score because, again, it looks like you're trying to get money from anywhere.
Yeah.
And the other problem is the credit report doesn't say whether you've been approved or declined. That's the issue as well. So I know the government is looking to make changes in the credit code to allow people to shop around a little bit more. Not sure when that'll come into effect, but yeah, that's something we need to work on. So consumers have the right to shop around for better rates without being punished.
Sure. So another thing is credit cards. We talked about history of payments and basically our behavior in terms of spending. So
Yep.
Is having a credit card affect our credit score in a positive way or in a negative way? Because you can say, it shows that I always, use that credit and repay on time. But on the other hand, you're saying that you're using the credit at the end of the day.
It's a bit of a gray area. Having a credit card can be useful to your credit score, but only if you make the repayments on time. Because if you miss repayments, it's just downhill from there. It really depends on your financial situation. Yeah, you should only apply for credit that you can repay. It will improve your score, showing positive repayment history. The other issue some people have had is people who have no history of debt or credit try to apply for a home loan, and sometimes they'll get knocked back because there's no financial history to reflect on, to look at.
Sure.
So it's a gray area. When you don't have any credit, it's a good thing, but it can be sometimes a bit of a negative thing as well. Especially if you're applying for a large loan like a home loan for the first time. Yeah, if you want to apply for a credit card, as long as you can afford it, do it. And don't make any unnecessary applications.
So correct me if I'm wrong, the way that I see it is that banks try to use that credit report to basically understand your behavior of spending and repaying. So if you're having so many different credit cards and you're behind in your repayment, it shows that you are not having a stable behavior and they predict you as a risky client. But if you have very limited number of credit cards, you've already paid on time, and you have a good spending behaviors, they see you as a customer with low risk, and they it affects your credit score that way, in a positive way.
Correct 100%. But like, credit reports are one of the things banks look at. Obviously, they have a whole procedure of what they take into consideration when providing credit. But a credit report is basically the first thing, I guess, that they would look at. Even a broker would do a credit check before submitting anything, just to make sure that when you submit your application, the chances of approval are much higher. Because if you do find a default, 1 year worth of missed repayment history, the chances of being approved are much less.
So we talked about credit score a lot. So how do these organizations define credit score? What is considered as a good score and what is considered as a bad score?
Okay, so across the board, credit score ranges are similar, but I would say anything above 650 credit score is considered to be good.
Mhm.
Once you get below 650, and you go, for example, 450 to 650, you're in that average range. And average range isn't the most appealing to lenders. Below 450 is poor, is considered a really poor credit score. But 650 and above is where you want to be ultimately.
Okay.
And yeah, across the board, across Equifax again, Ilion and Experian, they will be very similar. But yeah, maintaining a credit score, a good credit score, is really hard, but destroying one is very easy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So where can someone obtain a copy of their credit report?
So every consumer is entitled to a free credit report through Equifax, Ilion, and Experian. Brokers may also do a credit check for you if you are looking to apply for finance. We also provide free credit checks, but you can go onto the Equifax website, you can go onto Ilion's website and Experian's website and just order your free credit report. It shouldn't take very long to come through.
Sure.
And that'll give you a full breakdown of what's actually on your report.
Let's say we understand our credit score and we're trying to improve that score. So what are the ways?
To improve your score?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So first thing first, I would say avoid unnecessary inquiries. Don't apply for things you don't really need. If you're declined from the first place, there will usually be a reason. So before you make another application, find out why. If they say there's something on your credit report that needs to be looked into, speak to your broker, speak to us. We provide free credit health checks, and we can assess a credit report and see what could really be stopping you from obtaining finance. So avoiding unnecessary applications is one. Repayment history, make sure you pay on time. So when a bill is sent out to you saying this is due by example 5th of April, after that date, if you don't make payment within 14 days, it will be listed as a late repayment. And unfortunately, there's no way around it. A creditor is obligated to report that information to the credit reporting companies. So that's one of their legal responsibilities. Employment, try to stay within a job that you like, and try to keep a long-term employment. I understand everyone's circumstances are different, but changing jobs a lot does affect your credit score. Apply for good types of credit instead of your buy now, pay later services. You know, make applications at prime lenders, your big fours, and banks that are reputable. I would also say don't have too many active credit accounts at once. You know, obviously, unless you can afford it, don't have 5, 6, 7 credit cards just to keep your living circumstances going. Try to maintain it. And if you don't feel you need a credit card, close it. There's no point in just having it active on the site, because that's another liability at the end of the day.
Perfect. So these are all the ways that people can minimize the risk of a declined loan. So is there anything else that you want to add to minimize this risk?
Make sure, I think the best thing would be have your credit report looked at before you make any application, whether it's even if it's for a phone. Check your credit score, check your credit report, make sure you're giving yourself the best chance in being approved. The other thing is when it comes to repayment history, I just want to add, a lot of people do seem to think that phone contracts and utility bill repayments are on a credit report. They're not. So the only things that'll be listed as repayment history on your credit file is your credit contracts, which is your personal loans, your home loans and things like that. And your utility bills, your phone plans, your internet plans, they won't be listed because they're not technically credit contracts. I would probably also add financial hardship information. So as of July last year, if you are struggling financially and you apply for financial assistance through your lender or your creditor, that'll be listed on your credit report for 1 year. The thing with that is it can't affect your credit score, but again, because lenders all have their own different processes in approving a loan, that'll be taken into consideration with your application. So that
Absolutely.
should be in line.
And at the end of the day, they look it as a factor for their decision-making process, because if you're in hardship before and you couldn't, pay your bills on time or pay your mortgage on time, they will see you as a risky client, and it definitely affects us. Correct. For sure. So how can people find you, Enes?
Well, look, we're all across the socials. So we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. You can visit us on our website, www.tat-solutions.com.au. We've got an office in Coolaroo. We have appointments with customers. We provide free credit health checks for anyone who's looking to obtain finance, but wants to see where the credit report is currently at. And especially for investors who are looking to invest, maybe to buy their second property as an investment property, it's definitely worth having your credit file looked into before making an application. And if we do find that there are some listings on a credit report, we can dispute some listings. So if there's a default there that you're unaware of, or you have no idea about, we can make inquiries into removing that default. But a default can only be removed if it was listed incorrectly.
Thank you so much, Enes, for being here today and sharing with my audience. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, mate. So if you've liked what you've heard today, please like our channel and leave us a comment. And on that note, this episode is a wrap. We'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.